Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Today's Mishnah is being done in memory of Mr. Clarence Atena, Gershon ben Yitzchak, Neshama Shaban Aliyah.
Amen.
We are learning Mishnah's Tainus, chapter 2, Parak Beis, chapter 2, Mishnah Ches, Mishnah 8. Okay, now the Mishnah is going off into on a different subject. Kolakasma Megillas Tainus, the Leila Mispaid. Anything written in the scroll in Megillas Tainus, literally translated as a scroll of fasting, at the Leila Mispaid, so it's not to eulogize in those days. The fun of Usr, the day before it's also forbidden. La'achrav Mutter, the day after it's permissible. That means like this. Megillas Tainus was a scroll, a record, of days that the sages in the times of the second Beis HaMikdash decreed that because of different miracles that occurred during that period of time, on certain days, that those days were turned into mini holidays. What those miracles exactly were, I think we actually have a copy of Megillas Tainus. But there was a number of different miracles that occurred during the times of the second Beis HaMikdash, and depending on how great a miracle it was, that's how greater a celebration it was. Now, the celebration here wasn't like turned into Shabbos or Yontif or anything like that. We didn't come to the shul and read a Megillah or anything like that, like on Purim. But they were treated like holidays. That on a holiday we don't fast, and on holidays we don't eulogize. However, it really depended on the level of the miracle and therefore the level of the holiday that was instituted for that day. Sometimes they instituted only not to fast, but you could still eulogize. And sometimes, if the miracle was that great, they instituted at that day, not only don't you fast, but you also don't eulogize. So some of the days recorded in Megillas Tainus are holidays by which we only don't fast. Others are we don't fast and we don't eulogize. So now the Mishnah says, Megillas Tainus the Leila Misbed. Anytime it's written in Megillas Tainus not to eulogize, which includes not fasting also, Lefun of Usr, not only is the day itself forbidden to fast and eulogize, but Lefun of Usr, the day before, is also. However, La'achrav, the day after, Mutter is permissible. So the day before, we don't want you to, we don't, actually I should say, you didn't fast the day before. The day before you didn't eulogize. On the day in which they say you don't eulogize on that day, which again means you don't fast that day either. On the day before, no, I'm sorry. On the same way that on the day itself, you may not eulogize or fast. On the day before also, you may not eulogize or fast. Why is that? Because we're afraid if the day before you'll do it, you may come to do it the next day also. Once it's the day after, once it's already passed, then already this opinion says we don't have to worry about, mistakes anymore. And therefore, the day after is okay. So again, Mishna is saying, the Mishna is starting off that in a situation where it says that on a certain day, we don't fast or eulogize, we don't fast or eulogize the day before either, but the day after we may. Rabbi Yosi says, Lefanav ula achrav asar. In these cases, both the day before and the day after is forbidden. Why is the day after forbidden also? So they bring here an explanation. Rabbi Yosi holds that the prohibitions were extended to the day after the festival to show an extra degree of respect for these festivals, thus ensuring that they will be observed properly. It wasn't so much about, worrying about, doing something wrong on the day before because that day's passed. But it was in general to create a certain environment of chashivas, of importance for these holidays, that even if the day after we observed not fasting and not eulogizing because of that day, that would ensure the observance of these. That would ensure the observance of these days. Okay, so that's in the situation where it's written in Megillas Tainus not to eulogize. However, the law is ana behind. If let's say it only says in Megillas Tainus on a certain day not to fast on that day, which means you may eulogize on that day, just not fast, which means it's not as great a holiday, then the Tanakam, the first opinion says, Lafanav ulachrav mutter. On those kind of days, the day before, the day after, it's permitted to fast or to eulogize. We don't do any of those kind of restrictions or precautionary measures to avoid any kind of problem of the day itself, because since it's at a lower level, it's not as great, it's at a lower level holiday, they didn't institute these extra precautions. The day itself is going to be forbidden to fast. The day before, the day after is permissible. Rabbi Yosi says, Lefanav Aser, the day before is forbidden, Lachrav Mutter, the day after is permissible. As you see, Rabbi Yosi is stricter, just that in this case where it's not as not a serious serious holiday, he goes down one notch, in which he says the day before you don't do it, so you don't come to it on the day itself. But that extra about doing it afterwards to give more importance to the day, for this kind of a more minor holiday, you don't have to do that. So Rabbi Yossi says in the case where the Mishnah says not to fast, the day before you can't fast either, but the day after you may. The Bartanura brings down that this entire, all these holidays that were established through Megillas Tainus, once the second Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, we don't observe them anymore. Like with the destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash going into Galus, all those holidays aren't really too relevant to think about anymore, to observe anymore, and therefore the only two holidays that are written in Megillas Tainus that we still observe are Hanukkah and Purim. Those 2 days are still observed, but the Bartanura says you are not forbidden to eulogize or fast the day before, the day after.
Obviously.
You're fasting anyway.
Yeah.
But don't forget, that fast came about later on.
Also, are we talking about fasts for rain?
No, any fast. This says any kind of fasting, even a personal fast.
So if you had a fast for rain called for because it hadn't rained?
Would it be called on any of these days?
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably not. I'm assuming not. I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I can't say for sure. But at the very least, this is talking about other kinds of at least personal fasts, or maybe even communal fasts. It probably does include communal fasts. Does it include even those drought ones? I will assume yes, unless otherwise that maybe these are so serious they do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But you're probably right. Any kind of fast, private, communal, or the drought one, including the drought ones. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.